We were 45 minutes into the party, our Denver house packed with 50-something people, a live jazz trio by the fireplace, a bourbon fountain on the kitchen island, and a cake shaped like a semi-truck for irony. I'd just closed the deal that changed everything. Sold my routing software to a freight network for $12.4 million. You'd think this was the high point of my life. Before we go further, quick note, share what city or country you're watching from. Helps us know where these stories reach. Then I saw my wife, Vanessa, at the sidebar. She wasn't drinking, she wasn't laughing, she was focused, shoulders tight, wrists turned at a careful angle, tilting an amber glass dropper over my bourbon. I didn't flinch. She let 3 drops fall into my rocks glass, the one with the chipped base I've had since I was 22. Swirled it once with her pinky like she'd practiced. Then she set it right back on the bar where everybody knew I kept it. She turned and smiled at a guest like nothing happened. I stood at the edge of the kitchen and watched. I let her believe I hadn't seen. I walked over calm, picked up my glass and the clean one beside it, and scanned the room for the loudest person I could find. There she was, Lorraine, Vanessa's mom. Sequin silk dress, wrists full of fake diamonds, laugh like a chainsaw in a cave. I crossed the floor fast, glass in each hand. Vanessa was maybe 3 steps behind me. I didn't stop to check. "Lorraine," I said, raising the glass meant for me. "You should be the one to have the special pour. All your support over the years. I'd never have made it without it." She beamed like a Macy's float, took the glass, and toasted to "sharpening Ethan's image." Then she swallowed half in one go. Lorraine's sentence trailed off halfway through her brag. Her eyes twitched. She swayed, knocked the glass to the hardwood with a clean crack. She grabbed the edge of a bar stool, then folded. There was a rasp, deep, wet, ugly, then foam at the corners of her mouth. People screamed. Phones came out. Someone yelled for an ambulance. I held the clean bourbon, still cool, untouched, and stood steady as chaos burst open around me. Vanessa dropped to her knees by Lorraine, wailing like a backup singer. My son, Caleb, froze by the fireplace, pale as the marble mantle behind him. I didn't speak. I didn't run. I just tasted the drink in my hand, warm, smooth, untouched, and knew, without any doubt in my body, that the poison glass had been meant for me. Paramedics wheeled Lorraine out the front door, while someone cleared her glass off the floor with a dish towel. I poured the rest of my bourbon down the sink, rinsed the glass, and set it in the freezer like I always did. Then I shut the door to my office and sat in the dark. 5.5 years of late nights built that exit. Code sweats in the garage, test runs with 3 mid-size carriers, 2 major failures, a full system rewrite, and more than 1 straight-up panic attack when servers dropped mid-route. I earned every digit on that wire. And Vanessa, she spent like we were already there. Called herself head of brand, whatever that means, when you don't own a thing. We signed a prenup 8 years ago, before the software was anything but a side project. What's mine stays mine. If we divorce, she gets half the house equity, 1 car, and maybe a cap support payout. If I die, whole different picture. My will was 4 years old, back when I thought we were still a team. That one leaves everything to her. Full estate, life insurance, assets. At the time, it made sense. But her boutique, this sad little shop in Cherry Creek, lost around 11 grand every month. She blamed location, economy, seasonal trends, but it was all trash. The lease alone was brutal. Then came the branded photo shoots, launch events with 10 guests, rented florals, collab makeup artists for limited drop looks. All of it fake. I kept plugging the holes while she posted captions like, "Grind now, glow later," with a latte in hand, and 0 inventory in the back. And Lorraine, a walking overdraft. 2 home equity lines on a 1-bedroom condo in Glendale, a leased Lexus SUV with custom wheels, plus cards across at least 4 banks. I'd seen the mail stack before she grabbed it. About 74 grand in debt, not counting the treatments she called maintenance. Some kind of injectables and skin plans on long-term payment setups. Then there was Trevor, Vanessa's brother. Shady from day one. Slick hair and a used Range Rover he claimed was fleet-owned. He called himself a financing consultant, but what he ran was legal thuggery, loan shark stuff with signatures and pressure. 2 months before the party, I walked past the den and caught part of a call. Vanessa whispering hard. I heard her say, "He said the family rate bridge is due January 12th, and if we don't have it, there's penalties." I asked who he was. She said, "Just Trevor," and changed the subject. I checked later. Trevor had wired them 37 grand and change. No interest listed, no contract I ever saw, just a favor. So let's do the math. Divorce gets her a car and a condo she probably can't keep. But if I drop dead from a sudden medical episode during a celebration, she walks with everything: the stale will, the 1.8 mil policy, the house, the name, the whole business. And if I go down in front of 50 witnesses with a drink in my hand, that's a story people believe. No police suspicion, just a tragic night. A man who worked too hard. A widow with a grieving mother. Clean narrative, no trail. But she miscalculated. At Presbyterian/St. Luke's, the waiting room smelled like bleach and bad coffee. Vanessa paced like she was auditioning for something. Arms folded, then hands on hips, then folded again. Every 5 minutes she'd rush over and hug me like we were soulmates in a movie. I kept my arms loose, let her squeeze, didn't squeeze back. She texted the same line to everyone. "Mom collapsed at Ethan's party. Pray for us." I counted 14 sends, saw the names flash across her screen. An ER doc came out around midnight. Worn scrubs, half a beard, tired eyes. "Preliminary tox," he said, "shows signs of a toxic alkaloid. Something in the aconite family. That's pretty specific." He flipped a clipboard. "Timing and symptoms suggest recent concentrated ingestion. We're assuming the last thing she consumed hit right before onset." Vanessa blinked, stiff. Her lips parted, but nothing came out for a second. Then she forced it. "That's crazy. Everyone had bourbon. It was all the same." Her voice hit the wrong note. Too loud, too casual. Her eyes kept darting. To my hands, my face, my posture. Like she was waiting for me to sway or fall over. I didn't give her anything. "What's the half-life on aconite?" I asked the doc. He looked up, surprised. "Few hours. Doesn't linger long. That's why timing matters so much." "So the sip she took was enough for that kind of collapse?" He nodded. "One big swallow, concentrated dose. It lines up." Caleb leaned in next to me, pressed his elbow against mine, and whispered, "Dad, you're weirdly calm." I just said, "Some people lock in when it counts." The doc said they were keeping Lorraine overnight. Cardiac and neuromonitoring. Possible tox screen confirmation in the morning. Nothing about police, yet. Vanessa squeezed my arm and promised to stay at the hospital. Said, "It's my mom," like that still meant something to me. Then she asked, "Are you feeling off at all?" Her fingers brushed my wrist like she was checking a pulse. "I'm fine," I said. "Why?" She paused. "Just stress. I don't know. Adrenaline." I watched her watching me, trying to measure something in my eyes. She was already recalculating. I handed Caleb the car keys. "I'm done here." The drive home was silent for the first 10 minutes. Then she said, "This whole thing's insane. Nobody poisoned anyone." I kept my eyes on the road. "Let's hope the lab agrees." She didn't answer. Inside the house, I walked straight to the office and opened a blank document. I wrote the time of the drink swap, the dropper, the exact glass, Lorraine's collapse, what the doctor said, every word. I didn't sleep. I sat at the desk until the house went quiet, then quieter, then the kind of quiet that feels like it's watching you back. At 4:50 a.m., I opened everything. Joint credit cards first, then her business account, then my brokerage, then the mortgage portal. I didn't skim, I logged losses, cash advances, balance jumps that made no sense. 3 payments jumped off the page. Consulting fees to Trevor's LLC, clean descriptions, ugly totals. $18,600 over 4 months. No invoices, no contracts, just money gone. I opened a spreadsheet and built a timeline line by line. Dates, sources, amounts, notes, no opinions. Then I opened the safe. I pulled the will and read it slow. The sentence sat there plain as day. All property to spouse in the event of death. My hands went cold for a second. Not shaking, just cold. Then they steadied. I printed the timeline, stapled it, wrote my initials and the date at the bottom. At 6:07 a.m., I called Denise Park. She picked up on the third ring, voice already sharp. "Ethan, what's wrong?" "I watched my wife dose my drink," I said. I swapped the glass. Her mother collapsed. ER said aconite. I need you now. Silence for half a breath. Then, start from the bar. Don't skip anything. I told her everything. Dropper, swirl, the swap, the last sip, the doctor's words, the debts, the will, the life policy. I kept my voice flat. When I finished, she said, "You're thinking about survival. Good." She told me step 1 was cognitive armor. When poison doesn't work, people pivot. Guardianship, conservatorship, claims you're unstable. We shut that door first. She booked me with Dr. Kaplan for 9 a.m. No delays. By 8:30, I was in a quiet office with beige walls and a ticking clock. Dr. Kaplan didn't waste time. Memory lists, shapes copied from cards, drawing a clock face with the hands set to a specific time, math backward by 9s, current headlines, geography, proverb, meaning. He watched my eyes more than my answers. I finished the last task and set the pencil down. He nodded once. "You're fully oriented. No impairment. I'll sign." The report came back notarized before lunch. Clean, tight, court-ready. I emailed it to Denise from the parking lot. She moved fast after that. Fraud alerts on every account. Credit freezes. She drafted new trusts naming Caleb as the beneficiary and locked them behind her firm. She said we'd keep my name off anything public until we had more. Then she said, cameras. Today. Motion-triggered, cloud-backed. Admissible angles. I drove home and walked the house like I was casing it. Office, kitchen, bedroom, entrances, anywhere a drink could be touched, anywhere paper could disappear. Vanessa was still asleep when I closed the safe and slid the printed timeline inside. I changed the combination by 1 digit, enough to know if someone tried it. I stood in the hallway and listened to her breathe from the bedroom. Same rhythm I'd known for years. Same woman who smiled while tilting a dropper. I opened my laptop again, backed everything up twice, and sent Denise a final note. Ready when you are. Then I shut the screen, picked up my keys, and went to meet the day like it was a job I intended to finish. By noon, a tech named Carla was walking the house with me. Clipboard in one hand, drill in the other. She moved fast, barely talked, just marked corners and checked lines of sight. We put cameras in the office, bedroom, both entrances, and the kitchen. She framed the kitchen wide enough to catch the coffee station, the rocks glasses, and the fridge filter nozzle. She looked at me once and said, "You want clean shots or deniable ones?" "Clean," I said. "I want a judge to nod at them." "Then we do cloud and local both. Redundant. You'll get motion pings by app." Denise had already given me my next assignment. I walked into Front Range Bank that afternoon and opened a checking account with $65. Told the clerk I wanted low traffic, just something simple to keep paperwork separate. Back at Denise's office, she handed me fake estate documents with full legal formatting, power of attorney forms, account transfer clauses, notary blocks. Except all of it was scoped to the Front Range account. Nothing else. Buried in just enough noise that it looked real unless you knew where to look. Her IT guy, a guy named Sawyer, looked like he coded in dark mode for fun, handed me a clone of my brokerage portal. It looked identical. Same colors, layout, even the lag when you hit refresh. Except every login attempt got logged. Device ID, IP, what buttons were clicked, what was typed, and if anyone tried to wire money, it logged that too. The balances were fake. He set them to look just good enough to tempt someone stupid. I labeled a forest green folder, Estate Confidential, slid those fake docs inside, and filed it under E in the 3rd drawer of my desk. The one I'd already caught Vanessa snooping through last year when she thought I was out on a supply run. I locked the drawer like I always did. Then I put the key right where I always left it, inside the hollowed-out Sharpie in the pen cup. It was bait now, all of it. That night, she made her classic roasted salmon, which she only cooked when she wanted something. Over dinner, she poured wine into my glass and said, "Now that you're, a public figure, we should probably review estate stuff, just in case." She watched my face like a hawk, waiting for hesitation. I said, "Yeah, I already asked Denise to start." No change in tone, her fork slowed. Just for a second. Flicker of worry. Quick smile right after. Good thinking. After Caleb's homework, I told him I was crashing in the guest room. Blamed noise, too many screens in the main bedroom. He didn't ask questions. Just hugged me goodnight and said, "Lock the door." I did. Then I sat on the edge of the guest bed, phone in my lap, watching each room on silent feed, waiting to see what she did when she thought I wasn't looking. At 9:36 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion in the office. I tapped the feed and there she was. Vanessa slipped in barefoot, wearing that oversized sleep shirt she only pulled out when she wanted to look harmless. She shut the office door halfway, moved straight to the desk like she knew exactly where to go, like she'd rehearsed it. She didn't hesitate, pulled the drawer, reached past 2 folders, grabbed the green one, Estate, Confidential. She flipped it open fast, page by page, her face lit by the desk lamp, not curiosity, intent. She started photographing, full documents, the fake POA, the estate summary Denise loaded with fluff, the honeypot brokerage printouts. She paused on the login sheet, zoomed in with her phone, zoomed again on the routing and account numbers. She was so locked in, she didn't notice her reflection in the glass of the office frame. Her lips were moving, counting or reading something aloud. The camera caught her glancing over her shoulder twice. She slid everything back exactly how she found it, closed the drawer, pocketed her phone, and then she did it. That tight little smile, the one she gives when she thinks she outplayed someone, like she's 2 steps ahead of a slower animal and enjoying the walk. I screenshotted the footage, timestamp, room, angle, everything. At 10:02, Denise texted, login attempt, home IP, fake brokerage, user viewing balances, attempted wire $3,450 to account ending 942 in Vanessa's name. I just stared at the screen. $3,450? Not even cautious. No delay. Denise followed up seconds later. Captured, device fingerprint, IP, timestamp, routing targets. Got everything. Wire fraud plus identity theft plus evidence of intent. Next step, police. I typed one word back. Tomorrow. She sent the name, Detective Raul Alvarez. Denver PD. White collar and organized crime. She already had him briefed and scheduled. I leaned back against the headboard, phone warm in my hand, feed still live. Vanessa walked past the hallway camera 10 minutes later, hair up now like she'd brushed it, like guilt didn't leave residue. I watched her shut off the lights in the bedroom, crawl into our bed alone, and probably sleep like a baby. I didn't go down there, didn't need the drama, didn't need the lie about checking on bills or just organizing. I knew what she was, and now so did the system. I locked the guest room door and wedged a chair under the knob, not because I thought she'd do anything tonight, but because I was done pretending this was still a marriage. My phone stayed under the pillow, full charge, ringer on, not heroic, just careful. Detective Raul Alvarez showed up at 8 sharp with coffee I didn't touch. He watched the office footage 3 times without blinking, rewound, paused, watched Vanessa's smile again. Then he walked to the kitchen freezer and pulled out my chipped rocks glass with latex hands, sealed it in a bag, and tagged it like it mattered, which it did. If the lab confirms aconite, he said, this is attempted murder. If it doesn't, the fraud alone sticks. Either way, she's in trouble. He laid out rules like we were setting up a training plan. Nothing you don't open yourself. No special coffees. No shared drinks. Don't be alone with her. Phone charged at all times. Call me the first time anything feels off. I nodded. Already doing most of that. Good, he said. Don't get brave. I didn't. I followed every rule. Ate sealed food, made my own coffee, kept distance, slept light, logged everything. 2 days later, Vanessa said, we have a planning meeting. She smiled like it was a favor. At a bank in Greenwood Village. I texted Denise from the passenger seat. This smells like paperwork. She texted back. It is. Don't sign anything. The conference room was too clean. Glass walls, polished table, bottled water already opened. I didn't touch it. Lorraine sat across from me, makeup thick, eyes darting. Trevor leaned against the wall like he owned it. The banker sat stiff, hands folded. Then a woman in a lilac suit stood and smiled wide. I'm Gina, she said, from Vinecrest Executive Wellness. That told me everything. She clicked a tablet. Numbers filled the screen. We're discussing a long-term care commitment of $380,000 with $11,500 monthly for comprehensive support. Vanessa squeezed my knee under the table. This is just for rest, Ethan, she said. You've been under so much stress. Gina slid papers toward me. Consent forms, intake authorizations, medical power of attorney. The pen landed right on top. "Just signatures," Gina said, "so we can protect you." I didn't reach for anything. The door opened. Denise walked in, calm, coat still on, like she'd timed it on purpose. She dropped a single document on the table. My real power of attorney. Clean, narrow. "Limited scope," she said. "One checking account only." She nodded at the banker. "Please process Vanessa's request from account ending 1735, the banker typed. Vanessa straightened. "Wait, that's not—" The banker cleared his throat. "Account 1735 shows a current balance of $65. The room froze. Lorraine blinked. Trevor pushed off the wall. Gina's smile slid off her face. Denise folded her hands. "That's the only account she has authority over." Vanessa's grip on my knee tightened, then loosened. "This is a misunderstanding," she said too fast. I leaned back in my chair and finally spoke. "Is it?" No one answered. Denise met my eyes and gave the smallest nod. I stood up, pushed my chair in, and said, "We're done here," then walked out while they were still staring at the screen. The banker didn't rush it. He read the screen with a flat voice that cut through the room like a razor. "Account 1735, current balance, $65. Vanessa went sheet white. Lorraine blinked like someone smacked her with a light. Trevor locked his eyes on the door like he was waiting for it to open and save him. Gina from Vinecrest adjusted her posture and gave a professional nod, like she could still steer the room. She couldn't. "I think we may want to back up and begin with intake evaluations," Gina said, trying to recover. "This isn't about money. It's about wellness and burnout. Executive fatigue is a real—" Denise opened her leather folder and set a stack of documents on the table, like a judge laying down the law. Screenshots. Vanessa standing at my filing cabinet. Her phone camera pointed at fake documents. The honeypot login timestamps. The wire attempt, routing number, recipient account in Vanessa's name. "Intake's over," Denise said. "We're done pretending." 3 sharp knocks on the glass. Everyone turned. Detective Alvarez stepped in first, followed by a uniformed officer and a man in a Navy FBI jacket. Agent Milton, white-collar crimes unit. Alvarez held up a folder. "Vanessa Quinn," he said, calm and crisp. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial exploitation." The officer moved behind her as Alvarez read her rights. His voice didn't waver. Vanessa didn't resist, didn't ask why. The cuffs clicked behind her back. Lorraine started crying, real tears this time. Not the dramatics she pulled at dinner parties. Deep sobs, shoulders shaking. The banker took one full step back, like the table was suddenly radioactive. Trevor grabbed his phone, dialed fast, and whispered, "Get here now," like he was the one in cuffs. Gina didn't move, hands folded on her notepad. Still, silent, out of plays. Vanessa turned to me, that pleading face, wide eyes, lips parted, like if she looked soft enough, I might cave. I'd fallen for that face before, back when I still thought we were partners, back when I still thought love was something you prove by forgiving. Not today. I kept my voice low, calm, no emotion left in it. "I saw you dose my drink," I said. I switched it. Her mouth opened, but I kept going. "I logged you stealing, trying to move money, setting up signatures behind my back." She blinked. Her breath caught. Alvarez nodded to the officer, who started walking her toward the door. "You didn't marry a fool," I said. She stopped looking at me after that. They walked her out. Lorraine didn't follow. Trevor paced. Gina stood and smoothed her skirt, like any of that could undo what just happened. Denise packed up the documents, looked at me, and said, "Time to go home." I didn't argue. The courtroom didn't feel dramatic, just cold, wood-paneled, with dry air, and a bailiff who looked bored 90% of the time. But when the prosecutor stood up and clicked the first slide, everything changed. Search history, Vanessa's laptop, plain as day. Aconite taste, how to mimic heart failure, spousal inheritance, Colorado. Nobody in that jury leaned back after that. Then came the lab report. The state toxicologist took the stand with zero emotion. He said, "Aconitine confirmed in the bourbon residue. High concentration. One full pour would have been lethal within minutes." The prosecutor didn't even need to add commentary. Just let that hang in the air. Then it was our turn. We played the video clip of Vanessa in my office. folder in her hands, zooming her camera on the fake POA. The timestamp matched the honeypot logs down to the second. Same IP, same session, same fraud attempt. Denise laid it all out in order. She walked the jury through the prenup, ironclad, the stale will that left everything to Vanessa, the $1.8 million life insurance policy. She held up printed records of Lorraine's debts, Trevor's bridge loan, the boutique bleeding cash every month. She didn't editorialize. She just connected the dots. It wasn't emotional. It was clinical. The math made the motive. Doctor. Kaplan's report followed. Stamped, notarized, signed. I was competent, fully, no delusions, no decline, no reason for guardianship, no medical hold. They tried to spin mental stress after the arrest. It didn't land. Then came Lorraine. She took a deal, said she didn't know about the poison, swore it, but admitted she signed off on the executive wellness plan. Said Vanessa pitched it like a last resort. Like, he's slipping and doesn't know it. Cried on the stand. This time, it hit different. More tired than fake. Then the text from Trevor. The DA read them out loud. You need to force a solution. January's coming. It doesn't have to be messy, just fast. He'll thank you later, or he won't. He didn't look up once while they played those. Just stared at the floor like it owed him something. Vanessa's attorney tried to go scorched earth. Called me paranoid. Claimed I was controlling, dismissive, obsessed with money. Said I created an environment of fear. The jury didn't buy it, because then the toxicologist came back and broke it down. Lorraine didn't sip casually. She took one big swallow. Symptoms hit hard and fast. The timing lined up with concentrated aconite. Not natural causes, not anxiety, poison. You could feel the mood turn. No one wanted to be the juror who gave the benefit of the doubt after that. The verdict came back the next morning. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. Vanessa barely blinked. She got 19 years. State time. Restitution ordered. No eligibility for early release before 12. No contact with Caleb unless he initiates. My only hard request. Trevor lost his license and picked up state charges for financial abuse and fraud. He's still fighting those, but he won't win. Lorraine got 3 years probation. Mandatory financial counseling, no access to Caleb. She didn't argue. I walked out of that courthouse without a victory speech. No grin, no relief, just quiet. But I kept the ruling copy in my glove box for a month, just in case I ever needed to remind myself that facts, when lined up right, still matter. The next morning, I burned the pancakes. Not a little. Full black edges, raw in the middle. Syrup didn't help. Caleb took one bite, chewed slow, and said, "Pretty good for a coder." I laughed for real for the first time in months, because that was it. Quiet. No chaos, no performance, no fake concern. Just my kid, a crap breakfast, and a house that finally felt like mine again. I spent the afternoon cutting new keys, changed every code, garage, doors, router, even the printer. Repainted the office Vanessa used to call Media Central. Caleb picked out the color, flat matte black, and helped tape the trim. We sketched out a dashboard layout for a little routing app he wants to build for his robotics team. It wasn't about the product, just the time. The money split. 2 trusts, both rock solid. Denise set them up with oversight built in. One's for Caleb's future. College, maybe business, maybe nothing structured at all. His call when he's ready. The other's for community grants, smaller fleets, independent carriers. People like the ones I used to cold call who couldn't afford adoption fees or route automation. Now they can, and they don't even know why. I still check seals on every container in the fridge. Still label leftovers. Still don't drink from anything I didn't pour myself. Not fear, just baseline now. Like locking your door, like testing smoke detectors. When people ask if I'm angry, I don't give them the speech. I just say, no, I'm focused. Because revenge wasn't the cuffs, wasn't the courtroom, wasn't hearing the word guilty 4 times in a row. Revenge was keeping the house, keeping the name, keeping my kid, keeping my work, and watching the people who tried to take it all fail in slow motion. Some nights, late, when Caleb's asleep and the house is dead quiet, I grab 1 cube of ice, 2 fingers of good bourbon, clean glass, no chips. I sit in the office, lights low, and raise the glass toward nothing, toward survival, toward knowing, and I think I should have seen it coming sooner, but I saw it in time.